Hi again, everybody. Welcome to Courtside, presented by Tower Hill Insurance. And this week, we get to sit down with head coach Todd Golden and dig back a little bit into that background of his analytics. Coach, we hear about how analytically driven your team can be at times, whether it's in-game or in the preparation or even roster building and management. I'm curious to go back to the start of this, because if we think about the era that you played in, we were hinting at more analytically driven basketball, but yet it wasn't the same conversation that we have today. Mm-hmm. So at what point did you start to pick up on this is something that I want to make a part of my program and my future in basketball, and then how did it evolve from there?
Well, I think we have to even go back further to my childhood. Growing up, I was a big baseball and basketball fan. My dad would have the sports section on the kitchen table every morning. I would look at the baseball box scores and try to figure out the batting averages. And I was not a reading comprehension or a language arts guy growing up. I really enjoyed math. And then fast forward to playing at St. Mary's for Randy Bennett and Kyle Smith. As you mentioned, analytics was not discussed a whole lot in the college space or even the NBA space during that time, but Randy and Kyle were a little ahead of the curve and used a system called Hustle Stats, where they would grade each individual possession of practice, watching it on film, and then they would articulate that information to our team, our players, to help us find different ways to impact winning in games. And, it allowed me as a walk-on to play early on in my career. And then as I transitioned into a coach, I felt like it would be a system that would be beneficial to bring to whatever program I was a part of.
Trust is always in this conversation. Do I trust the analytics? And in baseball and football and basketball to some extent, there's always that conversation, more of a debate than anything else. I trust my eyes, I know what I see. Right. And yet the analyst will say, yeah, but I have the data. Mm-hmm. So how do you balance the two?
Well, I think the thing that we've done a good job of over these last couple of years is being able to teach through the numbers, pairing it with film for our guys. And so using it in practice when we're trying to show guys that they need to block out better, and maybe they've had 4 blockouts, but they missed 3 blockouts in practice, and they want to argue with us about whether they're really doing it or not. The great thing is the film doesn't lie either, and we put that on there and show them those instances, and then I think it resonates a little more. But there's different ways you can teach it, but I think pairing it with film is an advantage as well.
How much of the analytics goes into the game itself? And I'm talking about between tip and final buzzer.
A lot. I think the way we play, we're trying to be as efficient as possible on both sides of the ball. That's why we talk about rebounding a lot. We want to create extra possessions, which adds a little bigger margin for error in terms of the shooting. It's why we talk about turnovers a lot. We want to win those battles every night and give ourselves more opportunities to win than the opponent. So whether it's our game plan or our scouting, it's definitely a big part of how we game plan for those specific opponents.
Okay, let's go into the deep end, which I don't necessarily subscribe to with regard to analytics, but beyond rebound margin or offensive rebounding percentage, what analytics are you using to learn more about the rebounding aspect of the game?
Well, again, it's process over result for us. So where it's more about how we want to teach and how we want to get our guys to execute their specific responsibilities on both sides of the ball. So offensively, we track making sure we get 6 feet in the paint. Our 3s, 4s, and 5s on every shot are expected to get in the paint to make sure that we have good numbers in there. And if they don't, they get dinged. If they do, they get positives. For our guards, we expect them to be in position to pick up the ball in transition and one guy to be back and protect our team. So they have to do that. And again, that's process oriented, and they get in the habit of doing that every specific time. And on the offensive glass, you have responsibilities to block out your opponent. You're matched up, and you got to hit that guy every time. And if you don't, you're going to hear about it.
We may have piqued a fan's interest a little more analytically here, Coach. What analytic could you say to a fan, hey, look, this is one that maybe you can look for and help view the game differently?
Well, I think those numbers that we talked about before, the rebounding and the turnovers, is something that I don't think is talked about enough. And when you win that battle, you give yourself a much greater advantage to win. I also think 2-point field goal percentage is something both on the offensive end and the defensive end. It gives you a great understanding of how you're controlling the game. Think about it as controlling the line of scrimmage in football. When you have a great 2-point field goal percentage and you're limiting your opponents to a lower one, that means you're winning in the trenches, and you're doing a really good job that way. So there's a number of them that we track, but those are some ones that I think you can look at and determine how well teams are playing.
Great stuff, Coach. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Head Coach Todd Golden, I'm Sean Kelley. We will be back with more Courtside next week, as always presented by Tower Hill Insurance.